Hello to all you big children out there. Konnichiwa and welcome to the Tokyo Joshi Pod, your weekly dose of everything TJPW. I'm your host, Andy Zeich, and we've got another interview for you on this month's bonus episode. But before I get into who is joining the show today, I want to start off just by saying that if you are new here, weekly Tokyo Joshi Pod episodes release every Friday, covering the current TJPW shows, the news going on in the TJPW world. These bonus episodes, I release them every month or so, and we cover a variety of different topics here. We do rewinds for TJPW, on-site experiences at different shows, interviews, of course, different deep dives. Today on the show, as I mentioned, we have another interview. Friend of the show and referee, Mike Fullilove, joins us. You may know Mike from his time refereeing for TJPW on both of the Texas tours. He reffed for them up in Vancouver, and of course, most recently, just a few weeks ago in Las Vegas. But he also referees in a variety of other promotions as well, including the recently defunct DPW, RIP to Deadlock Pro. Also, you can find him in GCW, JCW. He was in MLW for a little bit, all the W's basically. As well as a variety of other independent promotions. Mike and I first met just back in Texas this year on the Texas Stampede Tour. Mike was actually a listener of the show and prior to Texas had reached out to me to see if I would be attending any of the shows. So we had a chance to meet up in person and honestly have just become fast friends ever since. He and I sat down, it was after the Spark Joshi show in Las Vegas, and decided to do a little bit of a quick hitter interview. Mike and I talked for about 30 minutes or so. We had about a 30-minute conversation where we discussed a whole manner of things. We talked about how he got started within wrestling. He actually started as a wrestler himself. So we talk all about his beginnings in wrestling. We talk about what goes into being a referee. Beyond just counting the pinfall and ensuring the safety of the competitors between the ropes, we talk a lot about his role as a referee in the greater ecosystem of a wrestling show. We also talked quite a bit, and he had a really lovely story about how he first got involved with TJPW and how that's grown over the past few years as well as him growing in the TJPW community. He's getting quite the cult following. We also discussed a bit of an exciting piece of news from Mike where he mentioned that he is booked to travel to Japan with TJPW for a couple of Japan shows. So a really lovely conversation. I hope that you guys really enjoy it. Perhaps you learn a thing or two about the refereeing side of the business. And if you are unfamiliar with Mike, I hope that he makes a fan out of you because Mike is a really great person and a really insightful person. And very, very good at what he does. So I'm going to roll the interview with Mike Fullilove now, and then I will catch you on the other side. Please do enjoy. I'm here with Mike Fullilove, Ref Mike, from TJPW, from DPW, from a whole number of promotions. I'm sure you've seen him around, most recently gaining additional popularity via TJPW. We first met in Texas, I believe, right? You came up to me. We kind of had a little bit of an interaction, but it was so great to meet you because I know you are a fan of the show too. And so that was kind of like our little bit of an introduction, right?
Absolutely. For everyone wondering, he bribed me with a sticker. He was like, "Hey man, I have stickers." I was like, "Oh my God, let's take a photo together, bro." And I got the sticker. I'm so happy.
The best part is that you then gave me your sticker too. And then you bribed me with the sticker, right? So we kind of went around and around. But no, I mentioned that it's amazing how popular you are becoming, welcomed or not. It's just incredible in the last maybe month or two. You aren't new to this game. You've been a part of the wrestling world for a number of years now. When did you get started reffing? Why did you switch from reffing? Because I know you were trained as a wrestler as well. We could talk about that in a moment. But when did you start with reffing and kind of why make that change into reffing?
Yeah, so specifically, I started as a referee in 2019. It was February. I was looking to get back because I was just literally going to work, going to sleep, going to work, going to sleep, and I wasn't doing anything in my life. 30 was fast approaching, and I was like, what am I going to do with my life? So to answer your other question about my previous training, I actually started training in pro wrestling in 2005. I just turned 18. I wanted to do it for a while in late high school after my football career flamed out, playing football, no football career. I was terrible. It's a long snapper, special teamer for those who are familiar with American football. So that flamed out, and I was like, oh, I'll try pro wrestling. I was a fan when I was a kid. Got into it, was terrible, but I had fun and really enjoyed the locker room and meeting everybody and hanging out with everybody and working on those creative projects. Obviously I quit because I wanted to like grow in corporate America, corporate finance. And that was like the real dream job for me, was like working with, a bunch of money for corporations and companies and banking relationships. But like I said, that got mundane, and it was like, well, I'm just working and figuring this out, but like, what am I going to do for fun? Like, what is the thing I'm going to look forward to on the weekends? Like, as I get older, where is the thing that's going to take me away from home? And like, I have to, I want to have somewhere to go. So that's why I got back to wrestling as a referee.
Do you have a favorite part of reffing or a favorite part of this industry? Is it the travel, the relationships that you make with just friends on the road? Like, is there a part of this that almost like keeps you going in that sense, keeps motivating you?
Yeah, I'm like, it's a little bit of a weird thing to explain, because some people who are newer referees will approach me and ask about like different phases of wrestling I've done and some of the success I've had, etc. And one of the things I tell them right off the bat is I don't look at refereeing as like an opportunity. I look at it like a responsibility. So my favorite part of being a referee is when the show is over, everyone is healthy, the fans are happy, the building is clean. And those are my main priorities, just making sure the wrestlers are safe, making sure that the show is good, and then obviously making sure there's no damage to anyone or the building. So I'm not really like oh my God, I love every part of this phase of things. I'm more of we have work to do, let's get this done. Then when it's done, I can, grab some pizza and beer at will.
I love it. And I like that you brought up the safety of the wrestlers too, because one of the things as a referee, obviously you're there to count the fall, you're there to raise the hand right at the end of the match, present that title belt, but there is so much more that goes into reffing too. And take this as far as you line, technically behind the scenes, what have you, but there are so many more responsibilities for a ref that people may not know about. Can you talk a little bit about, beyond just counting the pinfall, what some other duties you do as a referee in any given match for any promotion?
This is such a big question, and like, I'm not going to say everything. So what I always tell like my family when they ask, a referee is kind of a producer in the ring. Whether you have someone in your ear who's in production telling you what to do or telling you things, or you don't, and you're just relying on your experience. There are many times in matches where I can sort of kind of help change plans, whether it's initiated by one of the wrestlers or by me. And there's a lot of times where I can sort of kind of like make sure that if something isn't going to plan, I can help them kind of communicate and things like that. So I don't know, giving away the secret there. You guys can sort of like watch me now and go, oh, is that what he's doing? But in addition, like the main things as a referee, you're responsible for the building as well. So you have to make sure that the ring is set up correctly. Any maintenance during the show on the ring is happening. If any wrestlers have any kind of complaints or preferences for changes to the ring, ropes, whatever it is, smoothing out canvases, that stuff's done. Chairs and seating at times. And there are promotions where I help out with lighting and music. There are promotions where I help book people and form some relationships. There are promotions where I help with creative, some of those directions. I can be kind of like a confirmation on different ideas as well. I can be someone who says, hey, no, that's way too dangerous, we're not doing that. A referee is really just, it's typically kind of like you have a guy who has utility to the company and a wide variety of things and everything or whatever, but then also they put on a striped shirt and count pins. Yeah.
And then you brought this up as well, you having a wrestling background. How long were you wrestling before you made that shift to refereeing?
Yeah, I stopped wrestling in 2012.
Okay.
So I guess that's it's really 6 years. It feels like 7, but it's more like 6 because of the months, how they line up.
So this might be like a little bit of a softball question, but do you think being trained as a wrestler and then like wrestling as a wrestler in a ring has helped you as a referee, maybe kind of see things from a wrestler's POV while you're in there, or maybe as you were talking about kind of being that producer in the ring? Do you think that helps? Do you think that's something that, maybe this is something that all referees do already, but is that something that has helped you in your career as you transition to being a referee?
Yeah, for most refs that are beginning, they just focus on like the pins and then like, oh, I'm supposed to do XYZ at this point and making sure those things are done correctly. I actually tell referees who, again, there are some referees that ask me for like advice. and like the stuff that they don't want to hear. And I say, you need at least 10 matches. And even if it's just like in a school show or, you know, as live as it can be, you need at least 10 matches. My actual number for that is 25, but that's a little unreasonable for some people scheduling in modern America. But yeah, 10 matches at least. And there are referees that have been good referees for years, and then they have a match and they go, I see the whole thing differently. So it's really important to have that perspective to say, like, even when you are booked with someone, emotionally, that response you have to go, okay, I don't know this person. What am I supposed to do? Or I know this person, but how do I live up to expectations? Even when a match isn't quite going right, how do you recover? Even if you have a moment in a match that seems like it goes horribly wrong. I guess a little bit of a background glance into this. We're actually at the Spark Joshi show we just saw with Jada Stone. There's a match with Jada Stone where I literally had to tell her, like, no, that was fine. Don't worry about it. While they're still like ducking each other's punches and stuff. And she's like, and I can tell she's frustrated. Like, no, it's fine. Keep going. You got it. And they get back on track and the match, you know, goes well. And then she, you know, goes back and watches it. She's like, I hated it. And everyone else is like, no, it was fine. But you know, some emotionally knowing the ebbs and flows of a wrestling day, you know, someone might be having a rough day and they still have to go out there and main event for 15 minutes because people have like flown or drove to see them. So yeah, there's a lot that goes into like the things about being a wrestler that aren't obvious and aren't really easy to see, that if you experience them as a referee, you can be very, very, very key.
So, of course, we are a TJPW podcast here. So I have to ask you about your experience with TJPW. They are expanding really globally, almost in the last few months, it seems, and it's continuing a little bit. I think a few of the ladies are heading on over to Europe immediately here from Las Vegas after going to Canada, after flying from Japan. It's impressive. But with their kind of global expansion, we've seen you quite a bit in TJPW in Texas, here in Las Vegas. How did that all start for you? Where did you get your foot in the door with TJPW? How long ago? Kind of what was the story that kind of began your experience with TJ?
Okay, so I got the opportunity to work for a promotion on television called Major League Wrestling, and they had formed a relationship with Tokyo Joshi Pro. I was more, admittedly, I'm sorry, Cyberfight. I was more of a Stardom guy initially. And then I kind of sort of faded into just studying the people I was working with as I started working for more companies. But with Major League, they formed a relationship with Tokyo Joshi Pro. So they brought in Hyper Misao, they brought in Nakakuta, and they brought in Moka Miyamoto. So me being me, whenever I get a card or a poster, I study everyone, because as a ref, you never know who you're going to work with until the show starts. Like you actually get to the venue, and it changes. So, you know, there's a variety of people you can work with. You can work with anyone on a card. So you have to know everything about everybody. At least I do. And what I recommend people to do. But so I started studying Kakuta-san and Miyamoto-san, and there wasn't a ton available just on like YouTube or on the internet. So I subscribed to Wrestle Universe, and I was like, oh, cool. I get Noah, I get DDT, I get a bunch of different, I can watch Miyuki Takase-san over on Sendai Girls at times. And, you know, so I'm like, yeah, that's a good deal. So I might just like take it for a month and then study up. So studying up Kakuta-san, Miyamoto-san, Misao-san, learning about their histories and some of the other storylines, angles, etc. So we show up to the venue and they're like, yeah, we're going to put you in with Mystico. We're going to put you in with Satoshi Kojima. We're going to put you in with, you know, et cetera, et cetera. Plans keep changing. And then eventually they're like, oh, we're actually going to put you with the Joshi match. And I'm like, okay, I think it's two of the three. So Kakuta-san and Miyamoto-san are just walking around, like trying to figure out like, okay, who's our ref? And they just point to them, and I walk up, and, you know, I had learned how to introduce myself in Japanese. So I'd said that, and they're like, oh, like, cool. You learned some Japanese for us. That's nice. So in talking, both of them at that point didn't speak a ton of English, but me knowing what their signature moves are and stuff, it was really, really crucial for them. That eased up like their whole workload of trying to explain what they were going to do and why. So they were really happy with that. During the match, my earpiece wasn't quite working, so I was getting a lot of really nice things said to me by the producer in my ear. But once they got something figured out, I got a cue for 1 minute remaining, and so I gave them that cue. Kakuta-san kind of looked at me for a second, grabbed Miyamoto-san, hit her finisher, and pinned her. And I was like, oh man, they still had like a good 40 seconds. So we get into the back, and Kakuta-san is like, oh, sorry for time, you know, sorry about the time, sorry I messed up on the time. And I was like, no, you had plenty of time, and like it didn't quite translate. Mm-hmm. So I was like, you know what I'm going to do? I work for a promotion in Deadlock Pro Wrestling that does bring in Japanese talent at times. I'm going to learn how to give time cues in Japanese. So I'd already learned a little bit of an intro, and I was like, let's just learn some time cues. Nakakuda actually was going to come back for the collective in Philadelphia that year because she was on her way to retirement. She got sick and she couldn't. So I heard she had kind of regretted not being able to kind of come to America one last time and like try to put on a better showing. I always felt bad about that. Fast forward to the future, Deadlock Pro Wrestling announces a women's tournament, and one of the competitors is Shoko Nakajima. And I'm like, all right, like this is my chance to like make up for this. So before the match, I go up to Nakajima-san, I go, time cues. And she goes, times, okay. And I said them from 15 minutes to 1 minute in Japanese. She goes, oh, perfect. And so during the match, it's her and Jada Stone. Me and Jada Stone are both nervous in the ring as Shoko's making her entrance. We're both looking at each other like, if I mess up, it's because I'm nervous. That's the very match I referenced earlier where I was like, Jada, like, it's fine. She messed up something. It was minor. So Shoko's making her entrance. We're both nervous. I gave her all her time cues in Japanese, and she was super happy with it. So from that one match, they made the decision to bring Jada over for a tour. I run into Jada on another show. She notifies me of this. And I'm like, oh, cool. I'll just buy a suitcase. I'll pay for it. I'll just crouch into it. And then, you know, I'll just ship myself to Japan, you know, with your bags. And she's just looking at me. If you know Jada Stone, she's just staring at me. That Jada Stone stare, the side eye. I'm like, what? No, it'll work. It's great. I'm just going to go. Like, she goes, they don't really like, I know the ref landscape is what it is, but she was like, they don't necessarily have referees. Maybe you should just message them and ask. And I'm like, I'm sure they have. And if you watch the shows, they bring in plenty of referees, and they have, you know, Furuman-san, who is their referee. So I'm thinking like, yeah, there's no way. I had given Nakajima-san, before we left, I told her, hey, big fan. Thank you so much. She said, thanks for the time cues in Japanese. I super appreciate it. I gave her my card, and she followed me on Instagram. So like one day I'm at a work summit, and I was like, what time is it in Japan? And it's like 11:30 a.m. And I'm like, I'm just going to send her a message and ask if I can work for Tokyo Joshi Pro. She's going to say no, so it's perfectly fine. I kid you not. 34 minutes later, she replies. She goes, oh, I'll ask. And I'm just like staring at my phone like I was not prepared for what to do if she said yes. Like I had no idea. And I was like, oh, all right. 10 minutes after that, she goes, hey, send your resume to this email. And at that point, I'm kind of sort of dying internally. Like I have to actually do this. So like so unfortunately, Deadlock Pro Wrestling had a relationship with Wrestle Universe. So Deadlock shows were actually on Wrestle Universe. So I'm linking matches with their talent from their platform that I'm refereeing. I have a letter of recommendation from Nick Patrick because I work for him every month, really. He's the coolest. I finally like had the courage to ask him for a selfie after 2 years. And he's like the nicest guy. He's so great. So I have, you know, all these things I put in my resume. So I send the email off and I hear nothing. And I'm like, okay, so I guess they said no. So another month goes by, I send a follow-up. Nothing. I'm like, okay, cool. So I guess that's it. So going into WrestleMania weekend in Vegas in 2025, I was like, well, DDT's working with GCW. I have a good relationship with senior official Adam Galt of GCW. I volunteer for them very frequently. I'll just go be a volunteer. And if I run into Nakajima-san, I'll ask her and see like, hey, like, did anything come of it? Was that a no? You know, I don't think I'm going to bother this poor, super friendly, hyper talented, you know, Japanese woman, Shogo, you know. I'm like, oh, okay, well, hopefully she doesn't get too annoyed with it. So a bunch of stuff happens. Eventually, there's some near misses. Eventually she walks into the lobby at the casino going to the Pearl. And I was like ushering people to the locker room. That was my job for the whole weekend. So I see her and I'm like, all right. So I'm like preparing my Japanese. Oh, hisashiburi desu, you know, o genki desu ka, you know, a long time no see. How are you doing? You know. So I start walking up. I get to the O, like the first syllable. And she goes, oh, I forgot. And so I'm looking at her like, I'm sorry, what? She goes, I forgot. But like, it's clear, like, again, and Nakajima-san's English is getting much better. But she had said, like, admittedly, like, she doesn't know a lot of English. But I'm just looking at her like, you forgot what? But she's smiling. She's smiling at me. But I'm like, what did you forget? So, like, she either can't say something or she doesn't know how to say something. Something's going on. But me being me, I'm like, I'm not getting it. I'm just, like, so nervous. And I'm like, hey, I sent my stuff in. You know, Google Translate. I sent my stuff in. I didn't hear back. You know, like, what should I do? Can I maybe talk to someone here? And she just keeps smiling and nodding, goes, oh, I'll ask. I can't figure out why, right? Like there's something there, but I just can't get to it. But she just keeps grinning and nodding. So eventually, like, we get to, like, I walk her to where she's supposed to go. I said, okay, cool. Like, have a good show. She goes, okay, cool. Thanks. So I leave. So at the end of that show, they announced that they were doing a tour of Houston. Of Texas. And Houston was one of the shows. And I was like, oh, cool. And me being me, I'm like, I'm going to ask and maybe I can be on Texas, right? So I asked Nakajima-san after, and she nods. She goes, I'll ask. And I was like, okay. And then we said our goodbyes. I run into her a bunch of times over the collective to much hilarity, but I left it without like any kind of like idea of how this was going to happen. But I'm like, it's something. She's smiling about something, right? So I wait a couple days. I wait for them to get back. They do a next show. It's kind of a Tuesday kind of deal in Japan, midday, same thing. And I send a brand new email with my resume once again. Couple hours after that, I get an email from the director of Cyberfight, and he goes, oh, Shoko Nakajima said that you were going to reach out to us. We'd like to offer you these 2 Houston shows. And I remember like the email came in. I think I actually sent in at like 2 a.m. Eastern Standard Time and got the response around 3 something. And like I literally was like looking at my phone like, oh, I have to actually like figure out how to work this wrestling promotion with a bunch of people I don't speak the same language as. But I'm also still thinking like, yeah, it'll be a one-time thing. No big deal. Fast forward to the future, and I guess this year alone, I've had 6 dates with TJPW or something crazy. It feels like a weird number to say. Even Vancouver, their director messaged me the Tuesday before, and he was like, can you make it to Vancouver? And they had referees, and I think there was a whole thing where a bunch of other shows happened, and people couldn't quite make it for different things. And so I pulled a ref of mine that I know from Seattle, and I was like, yeah, I'll fly to Seattle, and we'll drive over the border. He goes, oh, great, we were looking for 2 referees. And that was referee Devin Campbell, Prestige, Defy, shouts to Devin Campbell. And yeah, I mean, they were really happy that I was able to make it. I was like worried, like, okay, am I showing up too much? Like, it's just like a sudden thing. But they were like super happy with it. I was super happy with it. But that's the story of how I became to be a TJPW referee.
It's incredible because it is, I don't want to say a simple story, but it's very like humanizing story because it feels like it could happen to anybody. And there's like awkwardness and humor. And I think that's just kind of how the human experience is to a certain degree. So it's so cool to hear how you just kept persevering and at the same time kind of stumbled your way into it. But you've created this thing. Obviously you have the experience in the resume. I don't want to downplay that at all, but you've done the work and you've done the homework and you've researched the wrestlers. You've learned Japanese. Like, I think that's more than most people would do. It's obvious you are dedicated. And I think we're almost seeing the fruits of that labor of sorts in the last couple of weeks, because really starting with the Texas shows, you started to get this groundswell of support. Certainly at the shows, there were a couple of chants for Ref Mike, but I saw a lot online of praise for not just your work, but just you existing at the TJPW shows in Texas. And it has kind of bled over here into Las Vegas because you've done a number of shows out here, and even just kind of passing around and passing by through different indie shows as well. And then of course you worked the TJPW show that was out here. Are you noticing either more people coming up to you, more people getting in touch with you? Like, you almost are gathering a little bit of fame here as Ref Mike. You're a part of the zany TJPW lore in a way. Are you noticing a little bit of a difference in the last 2 months or so?
Again, me being me, you say that about sort of kind of preparation for these shows. Because once my MLW stint had ended, I was watching Tokyo Joshi Pro. Like, once I started sending them emails about, can you book me? I started watching the show sort of just really every week or so that they ran. So then also doing some background studies, etc. So yeah, there's something really to, I think, being familiar with a product and organically liking it, and then inserting yourself in and going, okay, I can't be a fan. How can I be effective for them? How can I help things? And understanding some of like the whole tenets of the company, the mission of the company, the technical methodology of how like their matches and storylines and rivalries go. I do think that's why things have worked as well as they have. And to that point, and the reason why I say all this, wrestling fans are so intelligent and they pick up on all the little tiny details, and they know when you're authentic, because pro wrestling, a lot of it is about that philosophy and that authenticity. Shouts to Treehouse Lee. He always talks about the authenticity in pro wrestling. He could do a college course on it, I think. Because I've always struggled to explain it, and then I'm like, oh man, Treehouse like put it so well.
Yeah.
But like, so I think that's why it's worked really, really well. And I think that's why the support has grown as it has. Now, me being me, I have no understanding of the support I get. I just like Andy here will be like, hey, Mike, you idiot, you missed this, you missed this awesome tweet. That's so, I'm like looking at my phone, like, is that me? Like people know who I am. So it is kind of a crazy thing because I'm mainly happy the fans are happy. But I don't have it. I'm not wired in a way where I can sort of understand like the scope of it. Like it's just like I'm just like that regular dude that's sitting behind a desk, crunching numbers in Microsoft Excel for a company and helping people with lost bank passwords and things like that. Like I'm just the goofy brother who's the football hockey fan and you know what I mean, knows way too much about the King of Fighters. So I don't know. It's cool because I just like that the fans are happy. And also very importantly, I'm happy that my bosses, the TJPW roster, they're really happy. Because I know sometimes it can be tough to sort of translate to referees that aren't familiar with what they do. And sometimes like backstage, something will happen and someone will be kind of like nervous about something. Like Raku one time was really nervous about explaining her character. And I just looked at her like, you sleep. I understand. Dr. Yellow, your favorite train. I understand. Oyasumi Express. I understand. And so she was like, it alleviated so much like stress for her to try to explain that to people and how to play along. And some people don't want to play along and all these things. And I'm like, no, I'm here for exactly what this company does. And it's also the style of wrestling that I've always wanted to be a part of, especially comedy. Because I've been kind of sort of typecast as being like a super serious, super indie, super like technical referee. But like a 3-year-old outsmarts me. And I'm trying to get her. Like I cannot get Palm at all. Like she just outsmarts me routinely. But yes, I'm very much so really, really happy to really further their production and, like maybe have some ideas of my own, but also make sure that it's authentic to what they do, even if they're halfway across the world. And I think that's why fans have resonated with it so much. I don't understand it. I don't know how it's happening. I appreciate it, but yeah, I think that's why. I don't know.
Well, you're certainly very humble, and I think that's a very wonderful trait to have as well. But I do love that you mention again, you've done the research and you've put in the time to learn it. You're not just someone who is looking for a booking or looking for a payday or just looking to get yourself out there. You actually care about this promotion. You do the research. You are invested in it, if you will. And I love that you brought up the comedy because we have seen you wrestle so many comedy matches. And in particular, I know you and I have talked off recording, but the bits with Palm are great. The audio cues, whatever you call it, trying to not go deaf, I guess, is the way. Terrifically creative with those bits. I think here in Vegas, you used the remote control, which was, I know you had given me a heads up. Hey, there's going to be something happening. It's going to be funny. And I didn't expect that, but it was awesome. And on top of that, we've seen you, I believe in Texas, you were part of the infamous now Tesla match that has gone viral, and all sorts of wacky shenanigans. There was a dice cube here in Vegas. Do you have like a preference over reffing comedy, reffing main events, more like serious wrestling matches, like the Yamashita matches of the company? Do you have a preference? Do you have a favorite? Do you pride yourself on being kind of malleable to do both, or kind of where do you fall in just your preferences of what you like to referee? And that doesn't have to just apply to TJPW, but just in general with everything that you referee.
Yeah. I think advice I give to referees is learn how to do everything. And if there's something specific that you don't do well, do it often and then you'll learn it. I'm actually a tag team referee predominantly because I was so bad at tag teams. I just took every single one that I could until like I became really good at tag team matches. And also like shout outs to Paul Espinal, Ray Santiago, the refs that Clark De Benedetto, the refs that know me. I go on first and I'm not in the main event. That is like that's the only, like if there's dark matches, I do those. Like I'm early, load me up early. By the end of the show, I just want to watch, the brilliant referees that I work with, especially those guys like that work. Frank Gastineau, Kevin Pierce, Chris Wiggins, Ben Scheinberg, Pizza Ty, who was here today and here with us in Vegas. I want to just watch them do their thing. So TJPW does put me in a lot of main events and I don't have it like the heart to tell them like I don't really love main events, but like it's a cool, like it looks like, on pencil paper, it's like, oh yeah, we give him the main events and it's important and stuff like that. And, so I appreciate it super, but like refs that know me, like I do, like when I've been senior official of 2 different promotions, I put the other guy in the mains all the time and people complain and I'm like, no, you have to trust me. Like, so I love tag team matches. I really love comedy. The matches, and it's funny, like I don't work with Miyu Yamashita that much, which is amazing because I can watch her matches. I can really enjoy them. And same with Nakajima-san. Like, I worked with her one time, I think, recently, but I get to watch her matches. And as someone who's like a fan of hers and a fan of the product, like, that's also really, really cool. And some shows, like, I produce matches a lot, so I prefer to sort of be producing bigger matches than I do like being in the ref's ear versus being in the ring sometimes. But yeah, I pride myself on being very, 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 very versatile. If you need a referee to like get slammed, like take a choke slam, I can do that. You know, if you need a referee to cry, I can do that. If you need a referee to get yelled at by a 3-year-old, I'm hoping that I can stop her one day. We took a photo together the other day during the meet and greet after, and like she's like, "Hey, Mike, Shashin, photo." I'm like, "Yeah, sure." So I lean in and she yelled in my ear again.
So that's how she gets you, right? That's how she gets you.
Got me again. But yeah, like I do pride myself on being working extremely hard at getting reps in all kinds of styles of match, and also never being afraid to sort of be the butt of the joke, maybe, and learning how to accentuate the stories of the wrestlers even more by sort of giving them the latitude to say, "Hey, what this moment demands emotionally, if you need to show that with me," and it kind of breaks the rules a little bit, let's do that to prove that point.
So, like we say, here in Vegas, we saw you a lot in Texas, a lot in Vancouver. I failed to mention that. I love that you brought that up as well. So you've been really world traveler here. What do you have upcoming? Is there something upcoming? Can we see you anywhere here in the States? Do you have other TJPW commitments? Kind of where can people see you as we depart WrestleMania week and depart Las Vegas here?
Yeah, so a major credit, like I said, I never sort of understand the scope of these things. The director of operations of Cyberfight approached me after the second Austin show. You know, we're cleaning up the venue, sweeping up paper tape, putting the ring together. He goes, "Hey, the fans on Wrestle Universe in the chat, they're saying they want to see you in Japan." And I'm just looking at him like, people on the internet are saying nice things about me? Like, what is happening? And it wasn't like just the English comments. Like I went back and watched. It's just the translated Japanese comments also. They're like, someone actually said, "Hey, Mike, can we get Mike for Grand Princess?" I'm like, bro, I have a job. Like my boss would fire me on the spot. Shouts to my boss. She's been really great through this and letting me kind of like, I never take time off normally, but she's like, "Please take your time off and do this thing," you know? So he had said that, and I was like planning on going to Japan to visit one of our corporate offices that I have some bank responsibility for my full-time job. I have my cousin's widow, shouts to Haruko. I had never met her, and so I want to meet her. So I was planning on going to Japan anyway, and I was going to like maybe sort of timidly kind of ask if I could go to a show or ref a show. So because of all the people in Wrestling Universe saying these things, and also shout outs to Mr. Haku putting out a tweet there like, "Yeah, man, let's get Mike to Japan." I'm like freaking out. We had a business meeting and we agreed that on that is May 22nd, Gogatsu Niju Yunichi, May 22nd, I will be refereeing for Tokyo Joshi Pro in Shinjuku Face.
Wow. Incredible. And Shinjuku Face too, such a historic venue, a venue that is imminently closing, that is going to be great for you to check off that bucket list, right? Like what a place to go in the final, I think September is when it's shutting down. So within that final like 6-month stretch, it's going to be incredible. Sugoi, as they say.
Sugoi indeed. Yeah, and also to note, my home promotion Deadlock Pro Wrestling ran a show in Shinjuku Face last April. Deadlock has since closed down, so I'm hoping I can bring my shirt there and maybe take a photo of it in that building before it closes. But Tokyo Joshi Pro is the place that will allow me to do that, and I am extremely grateful for all the people in Wrestle Universe, all the tweets that I missed because my Twitter got suspended. I got it back, by the way. Don't worry, I got my Twitter back. You know, all the stuff that I sort of have seen has been brought to my attention. Thank you all so much for the support, because like really, again, I was going to ask, but like the answer was like yes, like absolutely, because of everyone demanding for it. Not, you know, obviously not like everybody, but like the people who did demand for it. I appreciate each and every one of you.
It's incredible. I've spoken with so many people here in Las Vegas about just those moments that happen, spur of the moment, and I think it speaks to wrestling and the wrestling community, because there can be so much negativity within this community, within the Joshi community specifically as well, but there can also be so much positivity. And like you and I met just spur of the moment in Texas, and you know, here we are in Vegas crossing paths again. I've had so many of those interactions, as I'm sure you have as well. And like you mentioned, this kind of trip to Japan kind of coming to fruition because of this support. I think it's well earned. I think you do a terrific job. I think you are wonderful at what you do. You're very good in the ring. And clearly I'm not the only one that thinks that, whether it is the companies, the wrestlers themselves, the fans out there. So I do want to thank you for your time, because this has been wonderful. This has been insightful. I think a lot of people are going to love hearing your story, seeing what you're all about beyond just Namba saying, your referee for the match is Mike. I think people are going to learn so much more about you, and I'm sure you will gain even more fans coming out of this. I would love to just give you a chance. You mentioned the Twitter. The Twitter is now back, or the X. I would love to give you a chance to just say where people can follow you, where they can see where you have upcoming bookings, and kind of keep tabs on what you are doing in the future. So feel free, wherever people can follow you, where they can look out for you.
Yeah, sure. So both I keep calling it Twitter, but I guess it's X. Both Twitter and both X and Instagram are Mike. The first 4 letters of my last name, which is Full, Full, and then the color black, Black. Mike Full Black, like full back, but with an L. You can find me there on X and Instagram, and you'll see quite a bit from me. But yeah, definitely, by all means, shoot me a follow, shoot me a DM if you want to say hi or ask a silly question about the King of Fighters. I always answer those. Also the New Jersey Devils, shouts to the Devils. But yeah, that's where you can find me. And again, thank you so much, and thank you for your time as well here. I super appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you so much. We're looking forward to seeing you in Japan, and hopefully we'll see Ref Mike on Wrestle Universe again very, very soon. I thought it was really interesting speaking with Mike and learning about like his personal journey in the wrestling world. I always love to talk to people, whether you're in or out of the wrestling world. An insider versus like a fan is what I mean to say. But I always love to hear people's stories about how they initially got into wrestling. And then, of course, if you are working within the industry, how that love of the industry and love of the business has grown into a career for you. So some really interesting stuff coming out of that conversation with Mike. I hope you guys learned a thing or two and really enjoyed it. It was great for me personally to hear more about like the science of his job as a referee. It's just something that I don't think about very often when I watch wrestling, but now having spoken with Mike and having watched some wrestling shows with Mike, I have a greater appreciation for those other aspects of the business where, when you're watching the show, you're not always focused on the referee, and nor should you be, really. They're not necessarily the main point of what you're watching, but it's always interesting to me to just learn a little bit under the hood and just have a different perspective, because there is so much that goes into these wrestling shows and these live events. It's just really, really fascinating for me to meet and speak with people like Ref Mike. I'm a little bit surprised he didn't mention the cold spray and the ice packs at all, so I'll go ahead and do that for him and recommend you grab your own, as we have reached the end of this monthly bonus episode. My thanks again to Mike for coming on the show. Be sure to give him a follow. You can find him at Mike Full Black on both Instagram and X. That way you can keep up with wherever you can spot him next, and then also follow his upcoming trip to Japan, which is super, super exciting stuff. I hope you enjoyed the interview today. If you did, hit that subscribe button wherever you get your podcasts for future interviews, and of course, the weekly Tokyo Joshi Pod dropping every Friday, where we cover the news, the recent shows. We also check in on some of the graduates from TJPW as well. You can follow our show on social media at Tokyo Joshi Pod on Instagram, TikTok, and X. You can also drop us an email, tokyojoshipod@gmail.com. But above all else, remember to keep your hearts burning, stay magical, my friends, and we'll see you next time on the Tokyo Joshi Pod.